Hey guys, we're back. All new
Going,
episode.
folks.
Now, what's this one
What
about, Mark?
episode?
This is one of your picks for an awesome topic. I love this film, but what have you picked for us?
I've picked the topic of cyborg police officer. Sorry,
Yes,
Robocop.
it's
I meant to say
Jean-Claude Van Damme
Robocop.
in it. I want him to be in it doing the splits, robo splits.
It's Robocop, folks. We're doing a Robocop episode.
Excellent.
One of my favorites. One of my all-time favorite movies.
Mine too. Like I've watched it a bunch, but I didn't get to see the unrated version until quite a few years later when they had a DVD release of that with the restored, deleted scenes that were too extreme for the films and censors and whatnot.
Extra gore.
Yeah.
We're all about the gore as well, folks, because obviously we've just done our 2 Mortal Kombat episodes,
Yeah.
so we're still in that mindset of extreme violence. So we thought we'd continue that trend with
Extreme
Robocop.
violence. I don't know about you, but I need a system reboot after all that gore. Get some new directives in there that'll keep me back on the holy side of life, walking the Robocop way. I'm definitely going to avoid the OCP meetings. I don't want to go to any more of them.
Is this like a leak memo from like a current Disney?
Yes,
Exactly.
It is correct. There's one guy at the top that is putting those directives in there. This guy, you might have heard of him.
Yeah, Disney executives probably make Vic Jones look like a pussycat.
They do. That's the funny thing, is it's like a pastiche or parody back then, but it's, I don't know, it's very close to home then and now for the whole corporate culture.
Oh yeah. Movie of its time, but also of our time too.
It is, and I think it's aged very well. Not just in production design, the look of it, because it's a beautiful film and it's been through the DVDs and the features and Blu-ray and whatnot. But it's a beautiful looking film. It always did look good to start with, but it's aged very well in its themes and iconography and what's in there. It's just still very resonant today.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece, no doubt, and that's why we're going to get into it and have a little muck about and see what's it all about.
I think if anything, it's actually improved with age, because from a superficial point of view, it's like, well, it's an 80s action movie, science fiction with a robot cop man, but that's kind of just the icing on the cake. There's all these layers as you get further into the cake, and the further you go into it, the movie has a lot of depth and a lot of meaning to it, in addition to having fantastic production values, great cast, great score, sound effects, good director, good studio that really fought. Everyone brought their A game to make it the best they could.
And it's one of those things, when people who haven't heard about it, or if you're hearing about it for the first time, you hear the name Robocop and you think, well, that might sound a bit lame, but it's actually,
but that's what
you couldn't be further wrong.
Looks at the script. The director was like, no, this looks like stupid American nonsense.
Paul Verhoeven, what a man.
Yeah. But yeah, directed by Paul Verhoeven, the old crazy Dutchie, as he refers to himself in the documentary I was watching about it, and written by, I can't pronounce this guy's, Edward Neumeier. How would you say it?
Yeah, I'd go with Neumeier. Yeah, we
Oh,
could
yeah.
both be botching it the same way. We may as well
Yeah,
be consistent.
yeah. Michael Miner. And we'll go on to the first one. Yeah, you want to read this one out?
Yeah, so for those of you who may not be familiar with it, Robocop is a science fiction action film directed by Paul Verhoeven and released in 1987. The movie is set in a dystopian future Detroit where crime is rampant and a corrupt corporation called Omni Consumer Products, OCP, controls the police force. So the story follows Alex Murphy, who's played by Peter Weller. He's a dedicated police officer who is brutally injured in the line of duty and subsequently transformed into a cyborg law enforcement officer known as Robocop. The film was produced by Orion Pictures and directed by Paul Verhoeven. Had a relatively modest budget, but it became a critical and commercial success.
It's a bit of trivia, not about this film, but back in New Zealand as a kid, when I hear the name Orion, I saw that on a lot of VHS and some dodgy VHS bootlegs we might have had. Saw that logo a lot. But there was a very popular brand of potato chips. It was either Ryan or Orion's. And whenever I hear it, it makes me want potato chips to this day. I still think of potato chips.
I always think about the first car I ever remember my father owning. It was a Ford Orion that actually looks
Yeah,
coincidentally
yeah.
a lot like the Ford Taurus and RoboCop the cops drive, but that's what I always think about when I
And
hear
when
the
I
word.
hear it, I feel like there's going to be some kind of war between like the O'Malleys and the Orions, or something's gonna happen. So I'll read this one brief bit out here. Alex Murphy, a good cop, is mortally wounded in a criminal attack. And when they say a good cop, it means he's like an ethically sound person. Think of like your Superman or Captain America. He's this vanilla, all around good moral human being, without as many flaws as a lot of people have. Um, OCP, the company that sponsors the police in the film, basically privatizes the police, seizes the opportunity to turn him into a crime-fighting machine, Robocop. Robocop is programmed to follow the law and eliminate crime, but he retains some memories of his past life, which is, from the director's point of view, it's kind of like his soul awakening from within this metal shell. As Robocop cleans up the streets, he uncovers corruption within the police force and OCP's plans to redevelop Detroit. And this one over to you, Matt.
Yeah, so the film explores themes of identity, humanity, and the ethical implications of advanced technology, which on a wee side note is quite relevant today in this AI
Yeah,
age we find ourselves in. So, RoboCop, it's known for its satirical take on corporate greed, excessive violence, and its blend of dark humor and social commentary. It spawned several sequels, a TV series, a remake, but the original remains a classic in the sci-fi and action movie genres. It really does.
I don't mind some of the sequels and other stuff, but like the original film is the best thing, and you can ignore a lot of things that came after this as just being kind of studio driven stuff. The only things I've enjoyed is some of the various comics over the years have been like enjoyable B grade fun reads, but nothing compares to the original film itself in terms of actual quality, its themes. It's serious. It's very serious in tone. It has its parody pastiche stuff, but it comes from a place of soul destroying 80s corporate culture, privatization of industries and people, owning human beings, treating them as objects, and everything's bought and sold. It's Gordon Gekko and it's Wall Street and it's mergers and it's Hasbro acquisitions. It's very ugly, soul destroying stuff. So it comes out of that sort of place. This was a cool still that's just showing the Robocop and the showing a kind of false perspective where his shadow is drawn up really big, where he was walking towards the people in the scene. Where in real life your shadow would get smaller, so they had him walk backwards to make his shadow appear larger, appearing as larger than life, like a Captain America or Superman, and an upward tilt to emphasize his physicality in his new robo form. But very cool still scene that was, presumably shot on a still regular camera, not the film camera. But I just love that seeing that was in a documentary, and I grabbed it out today just to chuck in there.
Yeah, it's so iconic, that Orion logo. I
All
always
right.
associate it with this movie and Terminator are the two ones that always
Yeah,
stick out in my mind for the Orion logo. But like it appeared in front of so many great films from my childhood. It was
it
just
did.
one of those kind
I
of
assume they
regular
must have been
studio
distributed a
logos.
lot too.
I'd imagine so. I'd imagine so. Yeah, they probably
I saw it a
distributed a lot
lot.
of movies. Oh yeah, it was everywhere. It felt like a real video shop logo. It just seemed like one of
Yeah.
those ones you always saw
And
and whatever you were
it
renting.
reminds me, on some of the video games, you had Ocean, which was an O in 5 letters, and they had their name on some of the Robocop games.
Yeah. You have that
Just a
association
certain
there.
feel to it.
The Robocop logo itself is quite iconic as well. I think it stood the test of time.
Yeah, that font and the logo and the uppercase C for the cop, because it didn't quite stand out. So someone in the production said, we need to change that, so they uppercase that C to make it stand out a bit better.
These are some fantastic stills you've managed to grab us as well here,
Yeah.
Johnny.
I love that the metallic font that they use on the Robocop logo, production staff, the photo, movie posters, promotional material, and on Robocop himself in the film, where they're like oiled up the armor to make it really shine, and that airbrushed, like that photo, that spray on paint airbrushed look with the extra shine was like beautiful.
Yeah, the OCP logo itself has also that
Yeah,
stylization to it as
it
well. You can
does.
even see the C in the Robocop is actually quite similar to the C in OCP. Like just that
Yes,
whole
yes.
style of font is just reused, and they give it that, it's the Transformers style liquefied
Yeah, the
metal
transfer
coat
style,
over
it's
the
all
words.
angular and yeah, it's like Robocop. When I look at these stills, I want to go on strike, man. How about you?
Yeah, I want to go on strike. I definitely don't want to work for OCP or work under them, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because like right from the get-go, they let us know as the audience like what's going on. So you start off, you've got the news report showing you some wacky stuff, but then it gets into the whole thing of, cops are being killed on the streets of Dundalk or
Yep.
Dundalk. That's where I live, on the streets of Detroit, and and the police are quite unhappy. They want to strike, and it kind of that's how you're introduced to what's going on. It kind of sets the
Yeah.
stage. You're following Alex Murphy, the good cop, as he's just after transferring through to his new precinct. He's coming over from Metro South, which by all accounts
Hmm.
is a much nicer precinct to work for.
Yeah. Less, not
And
as violent.
he's about to step into a world of hell, is our Alex.
And they do a good contrast here. We can see in that middle shot there, Murphy, he's all clean, his hair's nice, his shirt's crisp and starchy. Everyone else is kind of grimy and worn in and a bit smoky, a bit hazy. He's come into this grungy, crime-ridden, like this is the poor districts in Detroit, and where the worst stuff's going on, and the corporate culture is trying to take things over and just trying to bulldoze and remodel and ignore all the crime stuff. But we find out later in the film they've got connections to bloody organized crime and who knows what else going on. They also do some really cool stuff here where um, we've got a very old school police station. Reminds you of like Resident Evil 2, Beverly Hills Cop, big open wide sets, a lot of wood, a lot of cool desks and walls. And we did these amazing tracking shots that are like one take where they follow the character around, not unlike Mickey Rourke and the wrestler. We were kind of following behind and around the people, and we go around the whole building. And you don't even notice this happening because the guy who was doing the shot had this amazing tracking camera that was like much smaller than the big gigantic ones they used to use for the same sort of shots back in the day, and did some amazing stuff in this film. It was very innovative and ahead of his day. And some of the shots pop up several times in the films. These one takes where it goes for a minute or even nearly 2 minutes with no cuts, no edits, no nothing, and you do not even notice them because they're so goddamn seamless in the film. They're just like fantastic. It's only watching a documentary where they really point it out and get into it.
It's a beautifully shot
And
movie,
Squibs,
without a doubt. Oh,
yeah,
Squibs, love Squibs. Also, as well,
squibbing it up.
just to backtrack a little bit, when
Yeah, yeah,
Murphy kind of first comes into the cop station, that's when you're also introduced to his partner, or who will turn out to be his partner, Lois, uh,
yep,
played by Nancy Allen, and it's such a fantastic introduction, because this perp that's been brought in, who's been arrested, he kind of gets loose for a second. He punches over one of the other cops, and Lois just ends up kicking the shit out of him. She
yeah,
just roughs him up big time. And it's such a class introduction to her character as this real, like, kind of tough gal you don't want to mess with.
yeah,
Like, she takes absolutely no shit, and like literally just like puts the guy in his place. So I
yeah.
always thought that was a really
It's
cool introduction to her character.
it's a very Detroit or Chicago sort of thing. It's like you're tough because you have to survive, and if you're not tough, you're not going to live more than a day on this where they're working. And she had very kind of glamorous, longer shoulder length hair, and they asked her to cut it during production, cut it and cut it and cut it way down again. And they kind of, because she's in this man's world, and they made her hair shorter. She's wearing a helmet and body armor, and she's doing the same job as all the men are, and in a capable way. She's a can-do woman. There's not really about gender politics in this film, but it's in a very practical way. They're just showing that she's the equivalent of every other son of a bitches in this film. When they walk through the locker room scene, which I don't know how it goes compared to the theatrical unrated cut, but there's a bit of nudity in here, like the Verhoeven, being a Dutch European guy, isn't bothered by nudity, but the old Bible Belt America gets a bit upset if there's boobs on screen. There's a little incidental scenes where males and females are changing just into their gear, and nudity in the old locker rooms. But the men and women are in the same room. They're on equal grounds here. They're both going out and facing deadly, horrible, fucked up crime and all sorts of shit, and they just get on with it. And the tracking shots, we're just flowing past them. We're seeing these new characters coming in, and it reminds me of like Lethal Weapon or Die Hard or any classic films back. And then here's the new guy coming in, and here's the regulars all in the background just doing the shit, going just the regular grind of doing a fucking job, but it happens to be a job where they're putting themselves on the line every day. And as we move on to the next one, we also get the introduction of the E09, which is an awesome stop motion miniature, which we'll touch on that more later. But he's introduced here in this boardroom scene, which is very 80s corporate culture, very Wall Street, where we've got the big boss man is like saying, "This is what's happening." And all of a sudden, he flips his doors open, showing this E09. If you're sitting in the meeting, I'd be freaking the fuck out. Showing this
Yeah.
crazy robot who then goes on to squib the hell out of this poor guy here, who he asks him to demonstrate holding a gun up, saying, "But just mime, just play like you're going to shoot me," and he ends up getting shot to death in the boardroom.
Or Mr. Kenny, he just was.
Yeah,
He had no idea this when he was walking into work that morning,
yeah.
how his day
And
was going to end up.
the actual actor, the last squib that went off, the very last one that went off was right in his balls.
Yeah, what a way to introduce Ed 209,
Yeah,
and what a way even just to introduce the entire OCP corporate culture, and the main
yeah.
kind of
They
characters
just
that,
do
that are
not
going to
give
be
a fuck.
representing them. They do not give a fuck. And because you've got Bob Morton and Johnson in the aftermath of poor Mr. Kinney getting gunned down, and Johnson's like, "Oh, too bad about Kinney," and Bob Morton's like, "Well, that's life in the big city." It's just
It's
such
just
class.
gonna
It's the
it's gonna
'80s,
affect our
and
profits next year.
yeah.
Not that the fact the guy's dead, just it's gonna affect our profits because this project's a failure. It shot a guy it wasn't supposed to shoot.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. When like Dick Jones, he's trying to explain it to the old man. It's like, "Oh, I'm sure it's just a glitch, a temporary setback."
Yeah, yeah,
What a line! What a line! But it really, it highlights really effectively this kind of take no prisoners corporate culture that's at
Yeah.
play here. And I suppose you kind of have a bit of character contrast because you have the kind of old man who's like obviously like the head honcho who seems to have a slightly softer side to the up and comers such as his number one Dick Jones, and then of course you've got Bob Morton about to ascend the ranks of the company as well with his idea for RoboCop. So yeah, it's a brilliant scene. You've got so much going on. You've got the introduction of the OCP guys, but also the introduction of Ed 209, who really what you want to talk about making a splash. Like you see this gigantic, awesome looking stop motion robot walking into the room, and in minutes he's got gunned down one of the executives in the most violent and bloody fashion. And even like I know on the director's cut you see a lot more of the actual kind of visceral gore and stuff when he's getting shot to
Yeah,
shit.
he's like
But
going like this.
even in the original, it was still pretty brutal, even in the normal cut you see.
Yeah.
Because one thing I'll say about this film, and we're probably going to end up repeating it as we go through, when you see people get shot in this movie, they really there's a real effective use of squibs to the point where it doesn't. You almost feel the pain of a bullet going through somebody. So when
Yeah.
Mr. Kinney gets riddled with like a million bullets, it's like you can feel every one of those hits. It was just it's so visceral. It's just so violent, like the way he just gets completely mauled by the guns of Ed 209.
Hmm. It is purposely over the top, and that scene is played for slightly comical effect, like the excess of the 80s and such. But overall, the violence is over the top. But where it begins and the squibs and the violence, that most of it's fairly realistic in the way people actually get shot and such and fall down, and it's fairly realistic violence. But then it purposely goes over the top to exaggerate the effect, and it really ties into the themes of the movie, which some of the I don't know, like film critics of the day that didn't really understand that was part of the key part of the themes.
It definitely sets the tone early on that you're going to be seeing some pretty brutal scenes because
Yeah,
so it opens up with Mr. Kenny getting blown to pieces, but you're going to roll now from that onto this van chase where Murphy and Lois are going after Clarence Bodiger's gang, which is how these characters are introduced, and this scene in itself is particularly brutal. You've got like you first of all you've got an awesome shootout chase scene between the van
yeah.
and the cop car,
Look at them with
like
the
that
two,
this
just
scene.
the dual wielding the two.
It's so cool. Yeah, akimbo pistols. He is just killing it, and it's so. I one thing I just love about this film, and especially just movies from this time, is like you just feel the impact of those gunshots. Like they're blasting away at
Yeah.
the squad car with their shotguns, and you see all like the window just getting blown apart, the lights being blown off the car. It feels like real damage is happening to the car
Well,
from these
most of it
blasts from
is.
the
Most of it
shotgun.
is real actual damage, and they're really running those fucking vehicles and trashing them.
It's so brilliant, like as an action scene, and of course
They
there's
didn't
the
even have what do you call it, like a stunt harness when they're in the back of the van and they kick the doors open. They didn't even have stunt harnesses on. They got to fucking fall that out and shit. They didn't. They didn't even have that.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And of course, they really get over the idea of just how evil Clarence and his gang are because of course
Yeah,
one of their members, Bobby, gets shot in the leg. So now that Bobby's
yeah,
no longer of any use, Clarence of course asked, can you fly, Bobby? Before him and the rest of the gang
yeah.
literally chuck him out the back of the van,
You
out
know,
the
he
window of the
reminds
squad
me.
car.
Yeah, Clarence Boddicker. He reminds me of old Ren and Stimpy, old Ren Hawk, who had there was an episode of Ren and Stimpy where he got split into two different halves. Were meant to be opposites. There was evil Ren and indifferent Ren. That's Clarence Boddicker. He's evil and indifferent.
Yeah. Oh, he's just yeah, it really puts across just how bad these guys are right from the
Yeah,
get-go, that they're willing to kind of instantly jettison one of their own in order to
yeah, yeah.
escape and get away. Like you can see straight away that these are like ruthless guys to be dealing with.
There's another thing that reminded me of though, like watching the film and thinking about the just kind of on a superficial level. Okay, it's in the 80s. They're driving a big van. They've got a lot of weapons, and they're on a mission. Like the Bizarro A-Team.
Yeah. And instead of a black van, it's a white van. It's like the Mirror
Yeah.
Universe version.
They're like the evil Bizarro A-Team because they are purposely kind of there's this ramshackle group of guys of different ethnicities, and they're dressed differently, and they're in like sneakers and coats and stuff, and all kind of stylized in their own way. They appear kind of unorganized, but they come off like as if they were some kind of 70s Delta Force or ex-Marines, or who have turned to crime. That sort of style to them.
We should probably mention as well that poor Bobby, who did get thrown out of the van, he may have deserved it slightly because, as Clarence does remind us, you burnt the fucking money. Because that's the first thing you see as well, isn't it? Because when they're cracking open the money they're taking, it's all burnt.
Down, he's looking at the burnt money.
Yeah, you fucked up there, Bobby.
But yeah, awesome scene, and then it leads into the chase scene. Ends in this big like factory, which reminds me of like old Hollywood films, and also Batman, where you got this like awesome location shoot with a big actual practical factory, not a set. Leads into quite dark and dingy in the interior. It's a bit harder to see what's going on, but Murphy goes in with his partner, but the bad guys get the drop on them and end up shooting the living hell out of them / executing them.
Yeah, and if you thought like Mr. Kinney getting gunned down, yeah, it's pretty violent, but it's also kind of like you're saying,
a lot on the film cut.
Yeah, and but there are times when the violence in this movie can be a little bit over the top, where you will have a bit of a chuckle. It's not really the case with Murphy's death. Murphy's death is particularly brutal. Like you genuinely feel bad for this guy, because he's essentially tortured and then killed, would be like putting it mildly. Because they, once he's kind of caught, they mess around with him, they kind of toy with him, they blow his hand off. They essentially have him stand up and turn around while while Clarence and his gang all stand in a line with shotguns and start shooting him. And it's made worse by the fact that he's actually wearing body armor, so he's able to survive a lot longer. Taking these hits from the shotgun, so his suffering is just agonizing. Like, it's just going on and on until they literally run out of ammo.
It is very deliberately also relating to old Christ on the cross being tortured and crucified and endlessly in pain.
And he gets a bullet to the head. Then after all that, he's still alive. And Clarence walks over and pops one in him. And it's just so strikingly violent. Like, and a lot of people, like, I suppose the most memorable and iconic, I suppose, instance in the scene is when they blow his hand off, and Clarence utters that line, well, give the man a hand. Like,
give the man a hand.
What a line. Once again, just putting over the fact. Yeah, and these guys are just they are bad guys. There is no, like, if this was a modern movie, I'd sense that they'd probably try and give these villains some form of maybe reflective traits, like maybe they're driven by some force, or maybe something happened in their past that turned them into what they are. There's no such pretenses in Robocop. In Robocop, these are just bad guys, and they don't do anything. Yeah, they're unrepentant bastards. Exactly.
I don't know the name of all the cast guys, but the black guy in the scene who's like shooting him and wears the sneakers, he laughs like the Joker. He's like, ha, ha, ha. He's like hysterically laughing and super happy about shooting this guy. It's like just a real maniac who's having fun, like, torturing him. I also didn't know till, like, I don't know how many times I've seen this film. I want to say at least 10 or 20 films in my lifetime. I've watched this easily. But checking out the recent documentary in the last year or so this week, it was I didn't know how much was I mean, there's a lot of practical stuff with the actors, but then right at the end part where he's really just squibbing it up and shaking it around with those trimmers, it switches to a mannequin double that's like a full-on double of Peter Weller from head down to about torso with no legs, and they hollowed out the ground underneath so they could make him appear level. Super realistic looking thing, and that's the one they did the most damage to at the end. But would never have picked it watching the film. I just because they go from him with all prosthetic makeup and squibs and blood effects into this dummy. You can't tell where it switches over. It's a really incredible practical effect I didn't even know about until this week when I was, doing sort of background research for the talk this week. But amazing effects.
It's awesome because I think there's even like animatronics in it because his neck and head is
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
squirming.
animatronics. Yes, yes, yeah. It's
So
like an armature light where it's sort of wiggling back and forth like this, and just in the final moments where he's really like wriggling around. But yeah, so he's officially dead, and what you won't see here in these stills is that in the whether you watch the theatrical cut or extended version, when he dies, he really dies. There's a point in the film where the film just stops and it goes to a black screen for about 10 full seconds, which um, any kind of producer, writer, director, anybody will say that don't do that because people will freak out in the cinema or think it's broken down or they might get up and leave or want a refund. They put 10 seconds of nearly just black nothing to show that his consciousness, his life, his soul just fucking gone, vamoosed. He is gone and dead. But then the next scene, we get these creepy scientist weirdos looking down, little command prompts and that iconic green screen glowy computer text showing him in a chair. And we see this Robocop, and you don't. I mean, if you're watching the film, you know it's the same guy, but if you weren't paying attention, you might, if you got to take a piss in the cinema and come back, you might not know it's the same guy. Just like, well, here's a Robocop. What happened to the cop? And then we see him in the firing range. We see the cool compartment in his leg where his gun comes out. It was a big extended stock Desert Eagle that they used in the film. One of the guys who worked in the film was from Texas, and he said, I have my gun car, which is not a phrase I've heard before. And he goes, I have my gun car. I'll show you. And it was a big fucking gun that was too small for Robocop, but they extended the barrel, added a little practical stuff on there. Basically, it's a big Desert Eagle modified with extra, kind of parts on it to make it look even larger. And we get to see him in the car, which leads into the convenience store robbery.
yeah, I think it must have been that guy you're talking about because he must have
Yeah,
really liked Desert Eagle. So I'm pretty sure that the
he
gun
was a
they
gun
have
guy for
Mr.
sure.
Teddy pointing when they're pointing at E09 that gun, that's a Desert Eagle as well. So the guy must have just really loved his Desert Eagle
Mm-hmm.
pistols. But yeah, like you were saying, great way to really emphasize that the character has died by doing that black screen because you literally
Yeah,
they're trying to
I didn't
resuscitate him
realize
in the
it, but yeah.
emergency room. You even I think you might even hear the paramedics actually
Mm-hmm.
walking away from him, talking about going to get some lunch. Like it's very eerie type of scene. Like it's really well done. But yeah, like there's no doubt. Like this guy, he's been shot up and he's been killed. Like he's dead. And yeah, and then we get those command prompts. There's kind of like just a lot of scenes of them kind of fiddling around with his programming. Doing like little kind of reflex tests and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But yeah, it's only really when they've they've they have him online and they've brought him to the cop station to get set up where you see those glimpses of him kind of walking, and that's when you hear that kind of iconic. I can't even duplicate the sound, but you know the sound I'm talking about, the dunk dunk of his actual feet walking on the ground. It's that real
yeah, like it's a heavy,
weighty
like
walk.
this guy. If he was a real man, like okay, it's Peter Weller slash RoboCop, who was a thin guy, martial artist, marathon runner, stage and screen actor, also gun enthusiast. Um, but if he had all this robo parts on him, will be metal, and he's a cyborg, and he's like a head and some organs basically with metal parts, he would weigh more than Andre the Giant. Probably about, I want to say close to a 1 ton. He would probably, if you got into a car, the wheels are going to go and the car's going to sink down about half an inch. He would be extremely heavy. No person, human being could lift him or actually move him in any way. Not even the world's strongest man could like shove him. But yeah, I would say he would easily weigh at least a ton if he was actually modified into the Robocop person. So those sound effects of that "gosong, gosong, gosong," they're very realistic. 'Cause like if you've ever moved something on a pallet jack or a forklift, which I used to do my old job, you hear a lot of clunking sounds, and like I'd say he weighs at least a ton. That sound he makes.
Yeah, it's a fantastic sound effect, but it does get across that this
Mm,
is like a heavy
good
piece of
foley.
machinery. Yeah,
Yeah,
big time, big time. But yeah, then as
good
you
bit of foley.
yeah, so we get then to his first night on the town, so to speak, where he's going to begin actually fighting crime or stopping crime, which brings us to where we are now. The what would you call
Yeah.
this? Convenience store, a grocery store, I suppose you could
Yeah, it's
describe it
convenience
as.
store, grocery store. It's like your corner store. You got magazines. You might have some booze, some skin mags, some like cheap groceries, and it's usually like a mom and pop store who are not making great profits, but they've lived in the neighborhood, probably grew up there, probably migrants, and some asshole on drugs or who's just got out of prison is going to come in to get some money so he can go buy some more drugs and rob them.
Yeah,
Like half a dozen
this
neighborhoods I've
guy.
lived in my lifetime, basically.
One thing I always loved about this guy, he's like the most shifty looking guy ever. Like the moment
Yeah.
if you were running a shop of any description, the moment this guy walked through the door, you'd
Don't let this guy in.
instantly know it's like, yeah, this guy's gonna rob me. He's that he's got the classic, one hand in the coat while walking.
Yeah, yeah. That's it, guys. I'm fucking Robocop. Don't let him in here. But yeah,
Yeah,
this
but
guy is
boy,
just a
he gets a rude
complete piece of
awakening.
shit.
What comics do we have on display here?
All sorts, man. You got Rom, Thor, Captain America, Jim Starlin's Dread Star, Rom again for a second time for some reason. More Captain America. Mostly Marvel
There is a
Comics. There's a
DC
few other ones
Batman.
in
There's
there.
one Batman.
Yeah,
Yeah, one Batman. I
yeah.
think
Um,
there's an
but
Alpha Flight there as well.
Yeah, and it's so they're mostly Marvel, and in the production history of this film, they were looking at 70s and 80s Marvel comics. They were looking at Judge Dredd specifically for the helmet, the fascism, the law and corporate culture. That was a big influence on the film and script. In this particular scene, there's two really cool things. One is that there's a Blade Runner comic in there, a Marvel Blade Runner comic. This film was directly inspired by Blade Runner. The original writer was on the set of Blade Runner to sort of watch it as a bit of a voyeur and get ideas and inspiration. And that comic's actually in that rack there. I didn't even know that Marvel made a fucking Blade Runner comic till I was looking at this still today. And that one the guy actually picks out is really cool. And again, didn't know about it till now. He picks out an Iron Man comic. Iron Man, a guy in a fucking iron armored suit like Robocop. And in the particular issue he grabs out and takes up to the counter when he's robbing the people, Iron Man has a new suit, some kind of space suit or something. It's extra. Iron Man's usually pretty sleek and lean. The new suit in that particular issue is quite big and bulky and actually mimics the Robocop suit in the film, which I thought was really fucking cool because it's a tiny little frame where, well, you see it when he picks it up and when he slaps on the counter and then he's got his gun and he's robbing the people. Like, and unless you're really like squinting George Costanza style, you're not going to notice it in the film. Only if you're pausing it or saving an image. And I thought it was just a really cool thing.
Yeah, and this is probably as good an opportunity as ever to actually talk about that RoboCop suit design because this
Yeah,
is kind of your first proper look in the movie of him well lit up
he's all
under bright
shiny.
lights and all shiny, and you can see there's so many different kind of inspirations coming together for the design because you've got Verhoeven kind of talking about the kind of sleek metropolis design, like the old Fritz Lang design that he kind of like. But
Yeah,
also they were reading apparently a lot of like Japanese manga comics as well at the time, which emphasize, like the big kind of shoulder spikes and stuff like that. So he's
mm,
kind of a mix of he's both chunky and sleek at the same time. They've kind of like mashed those two designs together. But like, I really love that the actual RoboCop design. I think it's one of the coolest
Yeah,
looking
and
designs
he's
you could
also
get. Like,
like Detroit is like this outlaw town, like the old 1800s westerns. The way he's framed, he's squared off, he's got his gun, he's like John Wayne coming into town, like, right, I'm going to sort this shit out. He is framed like a Captain America or a John Wayne very intentionally, and they got that sort of physicality and posture down very well. And I was like, I've read a lot of Captain America, I've watched a fuck ton of John Wayne films. So when they talked about that, I was like, yes, I get it. They did that very well. There was also, to touch on what we were saying, the Japanese influence. They had mecha designs coming in for the E09 from like Robotech. Um, they also had, I don't know the name, I'd have to look it up again, but there was a Japanese artist who was doing this sort of like, what do you call it? Like airbrushed, super shiny artwork. Makes me think of the old Boris and Julie Conan sort of stuff, where everything's like super shiny and metallic. And that was a very specific influence on the shiny metallic part of the RoboCop, the way that I wasn't aware of until this week when I was looking up references and stuff about this film. And I thought it was pretty cool. So you got the Metropolis references, you said, you got the Japanese anime stuff, and then you've got this specific artist in the 80s who was doing this airbrushed metallic stuff, which has been done so many times, like your old WWF logo in the 80s and 90s. I've seen it on so many things, so it's kind of just goes right past me until they mention it in the doco thing I was watching this week. So, and he is very noticeably shiny and grey. And then in RoboCop 2, they went with the blue tint. And again, when they did other animation toys, media, is that blue tint. So RoboCop 1, very specifically grey and very airbrushed and very shiny. And it also plays into the Christian parable stuff with old Christ on the cross dies, resurrection, comes back. He's not, they say in the film from Verhoeven, he's not speaking a lot, but he's this resurrected, different. He's the same person, but he's a different person. It's this second life, this other resurrection that's come back, and they he plays with that quite a bit in the film, in the iconography, his mannerisms, his speech, and other things. And it's got a lot of layers to it, really. The more you get into it, the more there is to sort of dig into.
yeah, there is a lot of depth, and see, that's the kind of beauty of RoboCop as a movie. Depending on what way you want to come at it, like, you might just be in
Mhm.
the mood for a bit of slapdash action and some thrills.
That's
You know,
me.
tick that box. But if you want to maybe peel the skin back a bit and see what's under there, like, there's so much going on, from the design aspect of why things were
Mhm.
chosen, right down to, like, an actual contemporary commentary on like society at the time. Like, there's so much going on in it as a movie that's more than just what you might think it would be from hearing the name RoboCop. Like, you might think
Yeah.
that's not going to be something that you're going to get much out of, other than what the name is, but really there is so much there. And when it comes to the whole, like, kind of like Christ-like resurrection deal, like, yeah, you've hit the nail on the
And
head.
he
And I
does
know
walk
it's,
on
look, it's
water in
one
the
of those
third
things.
act.
He kind of does. He kind of does. He at least,
He
well,
does.
he walks across the water. So,
Uh, uh,
but this whole his kind of first night on the town is a really good way of getting across to us, the audience, just how effective he is at doing the job he was designed to do. Because so he stops the convenience store robbery. He then stops the attempted possible rape slash robbery of the girl who's getting chased down by the two thugs, where he shoots the dude in the nuts, which is like one of the most iconic moments in the movie. He
yeah, it
stops.
really bleeds out through a sponge, and the
Oh,
actress in the
Vegas, yeah.
scene was getting really scared.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, look, what a moment! What a moment! And then, of course, this moment here where he approaches, City Hall, because the ex city councilman has lost his shit and he's going to blow away some
Yeah, I
hostages.
love that scene.
I mean, he's making all the demands, and you've got the SWAT team guy down in the street, like offering him like a brand new 6000 SUX car with a blow punk stereo or whatever he wants, just to not shoot the hostages. But
SUX, it sucks. The
yeah,
American car that
yeah,
sucks.
yeah, what a name, what a name.
Apparently, they got
But I
the
always loved
glass in
this
the.
bit. Like as a kid watching this bit, I always thought it was really cool because like Robo, so while the guy is getting talked down by the cops outside, Robo is kind of sneaking in through the other room, and he's got his like
Yeah,
heat
stealthy
vision,
white
and
like
he
a
can
ninja
see through the wall,
or
so he like
Batman.
reaches his arms through the wall and like pulls the guy out
He
and like
does
punches
thermal
him through the
vision
window.
through the film, through the wall world.
It's so cool. It's so cool. And like I was saying, like this whole kind of first night on the job, they pick like 4 instances or 3 instances of crime just to demonstrate this is what this guy can do. Like, and like straight away you're like, oh man, there really is as Bob Morton puts it in the TV interview, there's a new guy in town. But like you were saying, it has got that kind of echoes of the Wild West and the new sheriff
Yeah,
coming into town to kind of bring this situation under control.
Yul Brynner or John Wayne.
Exactly.
I love like this crazy Councilwood guy has just lost his shit and he's going on taking these poor other co-workers hostage. And when the cop turns up to do the negotiations, he's going on about like he wants a car and doesn't have power steering and other shit. It's all so commercial. And then when Robo sneaks around and he bursts through the wall, that bit on the right there, he comes through and like grabs him here and he reaches it. Only Robocop or Batman can burst through a fucking plaster wall like that and just scare the hell out of some idiot. And then we get Lisa Gibbons talking about on the news, doing the Vox Pops. As you said, the Robert Morton vice president. I really like when it goes to the Robert Morton, it goes from like a film frame high quality down to like a VHS scanline quality. It looks really shitty on purpose. There's a lot of stuff like in this film where it goes away to different commercials, it goes to interviews, and it just looks really grainy and but it's shot that way because they've actually switched to a completely different camera that's low res on purpose, and it works so well on the film. Leads into this next scene where we're in the urinals in the back in the OCP building. And apparently they built this entire set of all this entire bathroom was a practical built set. And they said in the documentary that the paint was still drying when they shot went in to shoot the scene. They had just done it over like 12 hours or more. And they go in and the Robert Morton, OCP vice president, he's taking a piss and he's bagging out the boss, going, "Yeah, we're young, they're old, that's life." And then the boss walks out of the pisser, which is like the POV shot. He's looking at the comes out and is like, "You've threatened this company and you've disgraced this and that and the other." And then it leads into Robo back in the police headquarters. We've got an old back computer style shot with all kinds of like computers and knobs and dealy dialies. Robo's sitting in his chair and he starts having memories slash dreams slash flashbacks to his life as Murphy, which the director Verhoeven, he specifically said that this is like his soul waking up, which really hit me when I heard that, listening to that line, because like Robocop, I didn't know. I'll tell you something straight up, man. As a kid, I'd seen stills from this film when I was 9 years old because there was a lot of advertising around this. And I didn't see the film at 9 years old. I saw it when I was probably, I want to say 13 or 14. And I always assumed, just watching the film, theatrical cut, not the unrated or not any production features, I thought, okay, he's got a head, he's got a torso. I thought he had some of his arms and legs and the end bits were blown off because in the theatrical version, we didn't see all the squibs. We didn't see all the details of how much of his body Murphy was blown up in that first scene. I thought he was probably like at least 50% human, but then you find out that really he's pretty much a brain and a head, a spine and some organs, and just about the rest of him is gone. And even his face was like really fucked up. And only if you get into the production history and behind the scenes stuff, leading into Robocop 2, a lot of the when they're trying to do other Robocop project self-suicide because they realize what an absolute demented, fucked up being they are and kill themselves. They put the face from his body onto the cyborg so that he would not self-suicide. Like that's like a really dark, demented fucking thing, which again really only comes up in Robocop 2, but it's kind of retroactively in the first one if you look into it. And he's this face and these brain, spine, organs. So most of him is full on cyborg. He really is dead. Whereas as a kid, I'm like, well, they killed him, but that most of his body was there, and they rebuilt him, and he woke up and he was Murphy again. I was like, no, Murphy's fucking dead. He just has these memories, these engrams, these little like bits of computer code that tell him that once upon a time he was someone else, which is going back to the Christ parable, that he was a regular man, then there was a son crucified on the cross, the Son of God, whatever. It's a really deep and demented stuff the more you get into it. And fucking fucking existential nightmare any way you look at it. If you wake up in this metallic shell and your entire body's been ripped to fucking pieces, your whole psyche and soul has been fucked up. And when Verhoeven's like, that's his soul waking up, the only thing you can't own, you can't buy in this 80s corporate Wall Street culture, you cannot buy a fucking soul. That's the thing that's waking up and taking over and going, no, this is Murphy. Murphy's back and he's going to kick some fucking ass.
It's powerful stuff. It's really, really powerful stuff. And how that's kind of conveyed in that scene, I think, is very powerful because he's dreaming essentially, which he's not supposed to do,
Yeah.
because they kind of mentioned earlier on in the film that, like, when he's not at work, when he's at rest, he essentially just sits in this chair where he's kind of like,
Yeah.
there's any
He's a
maintenance
piece
or
of
anything that needs to be
furniture
done.
or a machine or
Yeah.
something you
He's
own.
like he's like putting your laptop in sleep mode. He's just supposed to sit
Yes,
there
exactly.
until he's activated again. But you see the screens, which up until that point had just been kind of showing like a bunch of nothing kind of data and static and stuff. You begin to see what he's actually visualizing in his mind, and he's reliving his own death, which that the idea of that in itself is kind of horrific, because he's plugged into this machinery. He's reliving his own death, and as they're kind of playing through the flashback, when he's flashing back through each of the shotgun blasts hitting him, he's kind of reacting while in the chair as Robocop. You can see him reacting to each moment he's remembering, and all the whole time the machine, it's like one of those kind of I don't even know how you describe it. One of the machines with the ink there where the thing's rolling across, like it just starts going crazy, and next thing, yeah, he
He has
wakes
this
up,
like
he gets up.
spasms, like someone having a epileptic seizure, and the chair is, I assume it's a throwback to Metropolis, where you see the female robot in the big chair who couldn't move the way Robocop does. Like he does much more movement than that film. But yeah, as he's having this existential crisis, but like as I said before, I always thought watching as a film, I'm like, well, he's Murphy, then he gets fucked up, they rebuild him, he's back, he's Murphy, he'll survive, and then he gets his memory. Like, no, Murphy's fucking dead. Murphy is dead and gone. This is a complete machine, and he's just remembering these past things. And there's a bit of Murphy's soul that's the ghost in the machine waking up and reacting to all these things that have been going on. And when he goes into the police station, uses that little spike that comes up out of his hand, which is there, as you know, to turn up later on, looks up his own obituary in the police database and says that he's dead. And that's when it confirms that he knows he's this other 2.0 different being. And one other sort of not quite deleted scene, more of a concept scene they didn't really shoot, but they sort of scripted and had a like a pre visualization for, was Robocop going to the actual physical grave of Alex Murphy. But the director Verhoeven was more of an existential, metaphysical guy. Is like, no, Murphy's fucking gone. We're not going to show you physical evidence of Murphy because he's dead and gone. This Robocop is like a new being waking up to what he once was.
Yeah. And this the screen grab you've done of this kind of sequence of scenes, it really captures perfectly the actual sequence of events of his kind of soul awakening and memories coming back, so to speak, because we've spoken about him having the dream and kind of getting those memories back. But as he's walking out of there, as he's leaving the police headquarters to I don't know, you don't even know what he's actually going to do, but he runs into
No,
Lois in the corridor, and she says to him, Murphy, it's you, which is another trigger then
and
to a
he's like,
memory.
somewhere there's a crime happening.
Exactly, and then that crime, which by the way, this whole the petrol station, gas station, whatever you want to call it, being knocked off by Emil is this is just a brilliant
Fuel
scene in
station.
general. Yeah, the fuel station for
All
we'll cover all the
practical, real
regional diet. Yeah,
explosions. The actual police and fire ambulances turned up. Um, not scripted. They turned up like, what the fuck
yeah.
is going on? You're destroying our town.
Yeah, the explosion was so powerful that several buildings
Yeah.
beside the actual control
Emergency
explosion caught
services turned
fire.
up, and the guy on the his little megaphone, the actors, the not stuntmen, the fucking actors of the Boddicker's gag were up close and got shards of plastic and glass and shit in their face. The uh, second director or whoever the fuck he was, stunt guy, was on his megaphone going to the public in apartments across the street, going, stand back, you are not safe, stay away from the windows. And the actors were like, we're right up close, they're telling them to get back. What's going on? So they didn't have a lot of
Whoever
stunt people in this film.
whoever did the stunt of Emil coming off that motorbike and hitting the car, that is one of
Yeah,
the most
that was full on.
brutal looking, painful look. Like he comes off the motorbike and like essentially just bashes into a
His
parked
face
car and is
plants.
thrown across the street. But it looks so. It is a guy on a bike hitting a car at
Yeah,
speed
yeah,
and going across the street. Like there's no effect there. That's so a stunt guy actually did that, which I think
yeah.
is pretty
They
crazy
had a
because
real lack of
it's brutal.
most stunts. They used like fat mats and sponge and foam and shit. There was a real lack of that in this film. I don't know if it was a budget or what, or Verhoeven or what. Because there's another scene in the film too where Robocop's in like I want to say it's like a multi-level car park, and he leaps over a barrier down to the lower edge. And the guy who was a stunt double did that for real in the Robocop suit, which is like a duplicate of the Peter Weller Robocop suit. He did it for real, not once, not twice, but about 10 fucking times. And he said in the documentary I watched this week, he's still got permanent injuries now from doing that stunt because there was no foam, no padding, just concrete. And he did like a stunt full roll, just like your wrestlers, onto like no padding, nothing down below. And it's like, oh, that was fucked up, man. Like hearing that.
Murphy here, looking up his own, yeah, like you were mentioning earlier, his own obituary before
So
traveling to
disturbing.
the home.
Talk about
It
cognitive
is
dissonance.
disturbing because he reads up on his own death, and of course he's also seeing the names and aliases of Clarence and his gang, which is going to come in handy later on. But he goes to his own home, or the home that he lived in with his wife and kid while
Yeah,
he's
the home
alive,
he
and
formerly lived in.
it's such a it's once again, as a child, I didn't always appreciate this part of the movie. To me, it was like the slow bit. I was just waiting to get to the next
Yeah,
bit of
you
like
feel like, come
action and
on, man,
shooting.
more action. Where's the shooting?
But when you watch it now, as an adult especially, you can really kind of appreciate the kind of gravity of the of the whole situation, because he's walking through this house that's all kind of closed up because they're obviously selling it, and there's like a little kind of video real estate guy playing in the background trying to sell people the
Yeah.
house, and as he's walking
Yeah.
through, he keeps on having flashbacks. He's getting flashbacks
It's
to
very
his little
incidental. The
boy.
house is so empty.
Oh yeah, it works. It works so well because he walks into an empty room, but then when he has the flashback, you see what the room was like, filled with furniture and with his wife and child
Yeah.
there and stuff. And then
You don't
it
know how
cuts
much
back to
time
the
has
empty
elapsed.
room.
It could have been a week, it could have been a year. You don't really know as the audience. So it's really disturbing when he walks into this house. It's like a ghost town, man.
Yeah, no, it's a really powerful scene, and definitely one, like I was saying, as a youngster, I was always looking for the next bit of action. But when I go back and
Yeah.
watch the movie now, this is one of the scenes that kind of sits with you, kind of lingers with you a bit longer,
It
because I
really
think as
does.
well, he finds like a bit of like a ripped up photograph. It's in the screen capture there where you see his kid dressed up like a little devil at Halloween and that,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's a Halloween.
it triggers the memory then again. So it's just one of those things like as he's putting all of this together, what's happened to him, and you can kind of feel that realization creeping in where he's beginning to become really, really aware of what's happened and what he actually is. It's pretty kind
Yeah,
of, it would mess with your mind big time.
absolutely. It's that soul awakening, it's the cognitive dissonance, and his mind, his faculties coming back in line from who he was to who he is now. And it's fairly horrific. And as we go on to the next thing, we're going to take a short little break here. We're going to play a bit of Nukem, another quality home game from Butler Brothers. We're going to
Yeah.
do a
Going to get
little
in a few rounds.
few rounds, little intermission here, and then we're back in a minute. And we're back, guys, talking about Murphy. He's reawakening to his soul, his memories of his family. Goes back into this desolate home that's up in the old real estate auction or whatever. Remember this wife and his kid, and it's intercut with this like just this empty home, which is kind of like a reflection of like where he is now that he's had these real world connections, and now he's been cut off, died, rebirth, come back, but his life is kind of empty, other than this partner in the police force as his one sort of human anchor.
Yeah. And as we mentioned previously, he's been putting it all together. So he's had his initial memories tweaked by the dream and also going to his home, but back at the fuel station where he stopped the robbery, one of the guy Emil also dropped in the line, "You're dead. We killed you." So that also has reinforced his belief and knowledge of what's actually happened to him. Um, Leaving his home, we see that he goes to this kind of like it's like a techno club, really great music playing, whatever way you want to describe it. I'd love to go to a place like this, but he turns up at this
Is it
club
Tech
and
Noir? I like to go to Tech Noir.
yeah, it looks like Tech Noir just with a different style of music. But he comes there to track down Leon Nash, who's played by the actor Ray Wise. He's one of Clarence's gang
Bit of a
guys,
bastard.
but he's a real
Great
bastard.
hair,
He's
great
he's
widow's peak in his hair, man.
yeah. He was the character. He was the character that I was allocated. Me and my friends always watched this movie like repeatedly. We're a big group of lads, and we'd always pick a character each out of Clarence's gang that we'd be. I was always this guy, Leon Nash. He's for those Twin Peaks fans out there. He's the guy who plays Laura Palmer's father in Twin Peaks.
Oh,
He's been in lots of
that's what I
stuff.
recognize him from. What I was looking at today is
Yeah,
going, that's definitely the thing I recognize him from.
he's a great actor though. He's been in loads of
He's
stuff. But
awesome.
the scene in the club always tickles me because he's there, he's
But
dancing
he
with the
kicks him in the
women.
robo balls.
He goes to try and kick him in the robo balls, but he hurts his own foot because, as we know, you
Yep.
shouldn't really kick titanium
Solid.
alloy full
Detroit
force
Steel,
with your
baby.
foot. It's always just so funny. And like so yeah, Robocop he hits the gun out of his hand before he gets a chance to shoot him, and he also then, yeah, after hurting his foot by trying to kick Robo in the balls, Robo just grabs him by his nice big head of hair and just drags him out of the club for interrogation. So
Yeah, that's cool.
awesome moment, awesome moment. But of course, coming off that, we got a very important moment in the movie because earlier on, as Johnny so expertly described, we had that scene with Bob Morton talking shit about Dick Jones, and Dick Jones caught him out, and now Dick Jones is going to get his revenge. So we are shown Bob Morton in his apartment. He's got a couple of ladies of the night with him, and they seem to be snorting some
Yeah,
type of white powder. Who knows what it could be? I'm sure it's
I
just
like that.
sugar or something. And
It was sugar in the
every
actual film, but they did actually snort it up their noses.
everybody's having a grand time, and next thing there's a ring, the doorbell rings. Bobby gets up thinking it's the guy coming to deliver the champagne, but it actually turns out to be Clarence Bodiger, who's been sent
It's
there
like
by Dick
bastard of
Jones to.
classes.
He's been sent there to assassinate Bob Morton. But one thing I always loved about this is before he actually kills Bob Morton, first of all, like he shoots him in his legs, which looks really painful. He also utters
Yeah.
that iconic line to the women of "bitches leave" for the two ladies to leave. But before putting the final nail in Bob Morton's coffin, Clarence takes out what could only be described as a DVD, and he puts the
Yeah,
DVD
that,
on
they
and
mentioned in
plays
the
a
doco that's
video.
the first ever on-screen DVD before DVD
Yeah,
existed.
it's so cool. It's so cool. So he takes out the DVD and then he plays a video of Dick Jones, and Dick Jones is like, you know, you fucked up, Bob. Essentially, he lets him know that he's cashing him out, I believe, is the line he uses, and Clarence leaves a grenade sitting with the timer going down, and poor Bob
Yeah,
can't
on
get
the
to it because
table,
his
off
legs
the
are all
table.
fucked up, and then boom, another giant explosion in a movie that has no shortage of giant explosions. A
Yeah,
fantastic
full
looking
explosions.
explosion. But then, of course, following on from that, we get into possibly one of my favorite action sequences in any movie I've ever watched,
It's
ever.
full on balls to the wall, just shoot out.
Oh yeah. Do you enjoy this shootout, Johnny? The drug factory shootout?
I don't know. Do I enjoy an over the top 80s excessive gun violence shootout with a robot cop man that's up there with just anything from Lethal Weapon or Terminator, any of the best scenes? I think I do.
Channels all of it, doesn't it? It's like it's got that classic Lethal Weapon thing of when a person gets shot but they're still shooting their gun. I always love
Yeah,
that in
yeah.
80s action
There's a
movies. It's like,
really cool bit in the scene where like blink and you'll miss it, but there's a whole bunch of guys playing the extended gang and slash extras. There's a guy in this shit scene who's shown from the sort of rear view shooting like, and then in the other view, alternate view, he's shooting himself in the scene. He suggested it to the director, and he's like, "Why not?" Verhoeven's like, "Yeah, let's go with it." And also one of the production guys, the same guy who had the gun car for earlier for the firing range for the extended Desert Eagle, Verhoeven was like, Verhoeven kept trying to smear the fake cocaine like flour sugar onto the guns, and the guy was like, "Stop doing that, or the guns won't fucking work." Because a lot of the guns in this are real, actual guns firing blanks or whatever, or firing real bullets into spaces away from actors. You got a lot of real guns in this film. And if you put water or powder or other shit inside a gun or firing mechanism, you're going to jam it the fuck up. And which is what Verhoeven kept doing. He was jamming up the guns, and the guy who was responsible for making sure the guns worked was saying, "Stop putting the fucking powder in the guns because it's jamming it up." And Verhoeven was running around the screen having one of his manic fits going, "You're fucking me, you're fucking me, you're fucking the film, you're fucking me." So it was really definitely an over the top the scene. You got the action, you got the fake cocaine, you got a director who is a very manic guy who's like very over the top and enthusiastic and brings the best out of the actors, the script, fighting for the best for the film. But himself and other people would describe him as manic, not unlike myself when I'm in a particular mood. We're just overly enthusiastic for things, and people are like, "Shut the fuck up! We don't want to know anymore about it." He was jamming up the bloody guns with powder and shit, and the gun guy was getting pretty annoyed. And there's a really cool bit in the doco that says the director was like, "You're fucking me, you're fucking me. If you're going to fuck me, at least tell me about it." And then the guy who was responsible for setting up the guns for the scene came to him the next day and went, "Paul, I'm going to fuck you in the middle of a take today. I'm telling you now." And then Verhoeven ran around different on the set going, see, at least he tells me. He tells me when he's going to fuck me, not like the rest of you." So he's such a character, Paul Verhoeven, man. Like, great director, awesome. You know, he grew up in the World War II as a background as a kid. He's seen like real body parts laid out in the street, not like in this film. The violence seems over the top. He's seen worse shit in real life as a like small child, so it was pretty ordinary to him. But like, you know, definitely a very manic guy, very over the top, but also excellent director, very passionate, and wanted to get the best for this film.
Fantastic director. And maybe on a future Boba Joe, we should touch on some other Verhoeven classics like Total Recall or Starship Troopers possibly
Yeah,
someday, because they definitely carry on. There's a lot of the spirit of RoboCop can be found in those two films. I'll say that much for you.
sure,
They're nearly more RoboCop like than the actual RoboCop sequels.
true.
But I suppose that would make sense since Verhoeven directed them. But yeah, going back to this whole factory shootout, like it's so well done, and it's just stuff like this used to get me so excited as a kid. There's like machine guns going off, shotguns, everybody's just shooting at RoboCop, and he's literally just walking through target, shoot, target, shoot, target, shoot. He just wastes everybody, and like even just the
He
whole
does.
guys trying to come up behind him, he's like shooting behind them and stuff. It's so iconic, and you just really get to see just how much of a badass that he is. But
Yeah,
definitely
he's got all
my
that.
my favorite, my absolute favorite though is after he's killed pretty much everybody in the place, and it just comes down to him and Clarence, and he's like interrogating Clarence, and he's just throwing him through the windows, and Clarence is being such a bastard though. He's still like he's like spitting blood in his face and like not cooperating and all that stuff. But it's such a moment. Like Robo just like fucks him up, and of course this brilliant bit where he brings him in, he holds him into the cop station, just
Spits the
fucks
blood
him
on
up
the counter,
against. Yeah, spitting the blood on the counter. Just give me my fucking phone call.
which
What a
apparently was
line.
an improv. He suggested that to the director. The director's like, who was like, yeah, why not?
What a line. No, Kurtwood Smith is such a brilliant actor, and like Clarence is such a great character, and it's such
He's
a
awesome.
perfect thing for Clarence to say, because even though he's been caught, he's been arrested, he's still defiant. Like he's
Fuck
not gonna
you. Give
just
my phone
fucking
call.
yeah, exactly. Like get me the fuck, and then of course straight on to Dick Jones on the phone to bail him out as well. Sticking up for each other.
Yeah. And apparently,
But
like,
of
the old Clarence Boddicker character, he kept adding in all these extra F bombs all throughout the film. They're like the behind the
yeah,
scenes the studio wasn't too happy with, but he kept adding them in. But they're perfect for the character. They suit the scene, the tone, everything. They suit this so perfectly.
yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, and like if anything, they add to it. They make it
Yeah,
more
for
realistic,
sure.
because you'd expect a character like that to talk like that, to
For
speak like
sure.
that. But of course,
But yeah,
so following on, because Robo had essentially beat up Clarence during the drug factory bust, he was able to get out of him that he works for Dick Jones. So Robo
what's that
decides to
extra
pay Dick
directive?
Jones. Yeah, he's got to pay Dick Jones a little visit in OCP headquarters to arrest him. But when he goes to arrest him, he finds out about Directive 4.
Yeah,
Directive 4. So essentially, Directive 4 is that you can't act against a senior executive of OCP, and if you do, it results in your system shutting down. So just as Robo goes to arrest Dick Jones, he essentially seizes up. He starts kind of malfunctioning,
because of spasms
and
again.
he's good having his spasms. And of course, this gives Dick Jones the opportunity to casually reintroduce Ed 209 into the picture, and this results in another awesome action scene of
The
Ed
Dalek scene,
209
I call
versus
it.
RoboCop. Oh, it's so cool. Like stop motion is brilliant in it, and just the whole like
Yeah, the stop
RoboCop
motion's
essentially gets
fantastic. But I
he
call
just
it
gets
Dalek
chased
scene.
around the
Why?
building. Why? Tell me.
Because the fucking stairs. Because Daleks can't
Oh
go down
yeah,
stairs.
they
In the
can't. They
classic
can't.
Doctor Who, in the modern Doctor Who, they can hover and do all
They
sorts
can
of other
hover.
shit.
They can hover. But yeah, his
Hover
his
big time.
chicken legs can't make it down that flight of
Yeah,
stairs.
takes a
And that's a
tumble.
pretty cool effect in itself, because they built a miniature set and a miniature flight of stairs to pull off that whole effect of him
Hmm.
tumbling down the stairs, where when you
It,
watch the movie you wouldn't know that you're looking at an actual
no,
miniature.
because
It
it's a
looks like
composite
real.
composite shot. They did really well where all the stop motion is miniatures, obviously, that are small, like, you know, action figure size. They did build an actual full size, full on, non moving fiberglass Ed 209 for still shots. And when they said to the director Verhoeven, they said to him, "We can build a full size one on one condition." He's like, "What?" He's like, "It cannot move. Like, this isn't Jurassic Park territory. We don't have full on animatronics and other shit we can." So it could not move, but they did build a full size Ed 209, which you do see in some of the still shots in the beginning of the film before he starts like shooting the guy up with the squibs and all that. And like I said, the smaller size on the stairs are the miniatures. The stop motion stuff, your Harryhausen style, is fantastic, and it's of that era where we still got a little bit of stop motion here and there, Robocop, Terminator, but it's done in such a way that's so seamless. I will actually say it is better than the original Terminator, which was out just before this film. Didn't influence it, despite what some people will say, because the story for this was already written before Terminator was out, before the writers had seen or heard anything about it. The stop motion, this is fucking flawless way it integrates into the film. Whereas the original Terminator, I love it. I love it to pieces. I'm sure we'll talk about it another thing down the track. But the stop motion is fairly jarring in staccato and the rhythm and all that. Whereas the only staccato you'll see in this is Peter Weller on purpose after working with a dance coach for 6 months, who's a real man in a like crazy suit. Whereas the actual stop motion thing is very, very fluid, and they shot it at about 24 frames per second. Did an amazing job with Ed 209. I still have the cool NECA toy out the back of the box, which I took out once. Have not had it on my shelf because I haven't been able to fit him in anywhere. I'm determined to get him on the shelf this year sometime. There he is. There he is. That's the guy. Let's get a look at him.
Yeah. He's got his
Beautiful. They also had in the documentary, they said that Ed 209 is like basically a combination of a Robotech like bipedal robot and an orca whale in the face with the black and the white. And that round shape is like an orca whale, where it's a face, but it's not a face, which I thought that was pretty cool. That's some real nerd fucking knowledge I knew nothing about until
I
this
think
week.
as well, when it comes to the design of Ed 209, that rhymes. But when it comes to the design of Ed 209, the fact that he
It's
has
not
those
in the
kind of
episode number of this episode at all. So don't look in that thumbnail. It's not in there.
these kind of like they're almost like chicken walker style legs.
Yeah,
You can tell by the way
the
it's
backwards
designed.
legs.
The stop motion makes sense because he moves like you would expect a mechanism like that to move because of the design of
He
the
does.
legs. So you don't notice that it's like a herky jerky stop motion because it looks like something that would naturally move from
Mechanical.
side to side. And yeah, exactly. They really
And what about
pulled it off
the
so well.
growls, the little sounds and growls he does too?
That's awesome. The like actual animal growls mixed together, and yeah, he's just a
Yeah, like
really
cats and
intimidating.
jaguars, which I thought it was just a mechanical machine effect, but it's a real animal sound.
Definitely, like if you were a criminal and you happened upon this, you would shit yourself. Like there's no
You're
doubt about it that
fucked.
the crime rate would go down. That would be until the day that you learned they couldn't walk downstairs, and then you just commit
Just run
crimes
around
in
behind the
areas underneath
building.
the
It'll take
stairs.
half an hour to get to you. Drive away in the car.
Yeah, you blow the piss out of your car though with those guns.
Yeah. But yeah, after the old Ed 209 not having a bit of a full on challenge with the stairs, we get some Vox Pops in the streets interviews with Peter Whitley, homeowner, and Kiva Rosenberg, unemployed person. Some of my favorite cameos in this film.
Fantastic Vox Pops. Yeah, he's like, it's a free society, but there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
There's some great quotes, and yeah, I love that contrast: homeowner versus unemployed person.
It's such a like PC like correct. I mean, before the term existed, why you shows this poor guy who's basically hopeless.
Here we see the aftermath of the battle of Robocop and Ed
Yeah.
209 with Clarence, who's just been bailed out of
And the
jail.
secretary lady in the purple.
That's right. Yeah, you mentioned to me before we started recording that the secretary of Dick Jones is actually the real life wife of Kurtwood
Yeah.
Smith, who plays Clarence
Real
Bolivar.
life
So that was a nice little moment.
wife. And he says a bit of dialogue, and he's like, "I'll be back later, and maybe you'll be able to fit me in." That's what he says to his wife.
Cheeky monkey.
Yeah, he
I'd
really
say she
leans
had
into
some
the
fun.
scene because it's his wife and has good fun with it. And it leads
What we got here as
into
well. Yeah, this moment where Robocop actually removes his helmet, and you actually see what he
with the
looks like.
screwdriver, man. That's like
Yeah,
brutal. Like, man.
it's a pretty
It
brutal
almost looks
moment, and it,
suicidal. He's that little still is like what is it, like Deer Hunter or whatever it is, where it's like a gun
uh,
going up to the head, like he's gonna shoot himself.
big time, and it's kind of you're used to watching it now, I suppose, but when that reveal for the first time, because it's like you're saying earlier, it's kind of like he just had this like dead guy's face kind of slapped on to
Yeah.
like a robo's skull,
Yeah, well,
but it's a
Verhoeven
real
refers to
moment.
him and sometimes like he's like a zombie. He's a robo zombie.
And it's a nice little moment between him and Lois as well, where he's kind of and it's that iconic line, I believe, where it's like, when she's asking him about his family. Yeah, here we go. I can feel them, but I can't remember them. It's pretty harrowing stuff. Like, it's a big deal, and
It
it's
really drives it
you do
home
feel for him.
because like
Oh yeah, you feel for him.
well, it's like up until this point, you think, well, he's recovering his memories and maybe there's a bit of Murphy still in there. And now it's kind of flipping the other way where it's like he's the machine and he has this like code that's like coded memory showing him bits of old things of what he was before, where he like, I can feel them as in the emotion. I can't remember them. As in, like earlier in the film, there's a scene where like, we'll just wipe his memory because he's a piece of OCP property, the super cop. So they've wiped his memory. He's got this bit of his soul coming through, bit of actual memory. We never know for sure one way or another. He walked back into that old derelict house that's up for sale, seen his family photos. So he got some kind of memory remnant and saw the photos and kind of reconstructed, and then he looked at his own deceased profile in the police database and puts it all together. But how much of it is actual memory and how much of it is computer man putting together this data? We don't really know, and it really drives home just how fucked up and horrible it is what OCP has done to this Alex Murphy cop.
And we're whisked to the crime-ridden streets of Detroit, where you
Yeah,
see just complete chaos unfolding. Because at this point in the movie now, the police, they actually have gone on strike, so the city is essentially tearing itself apart, and we're reunited with Clarence's gang, who have all now gotten out of prison, and
and they're
Clarence,
using real guns in this scene, real big crazy
yeah,
sniper
real big
rifle things
guns.
in the scene.
I believe the name of the gun in the movie, they call it a Cobra assault cannon, and
Yes, exactly. Like
this has been
they've got
gifted to
timed
Clarence.
explosions going off, but the gun is real. It's a real gun and it's massive.
Yeah,
And they said hold it up like this because it weighed so much you couldn't just hold it out because you would hurt your arm and hurt your tendons just holding
no,
the damn thing.
I'm no gun expert. I'm sure there's probably going to be somebody watching me. If like Salzburg ends up watching this episode, maybe he can answer
Yeah,
this question. But I'm pretty sure that the real gun they use is an actual Barrett 50 caliber sniper rifle, is what that Cobra assault cannon actually is. So when you see them
yeah, that's what
firing
they
it,
called it.
they're
They
firing
modified
the
the
real
scope.
Barrett.
Like they built like an external thing on top of the scope, and they were going to do it. They had three, maybe four on set of the actual gun, and they couldn't afford to modify them all. So they modified one for the shooting, showing this big square shape on top of it to give it the look they wanted.
Yeah. So they've all been reunited, and they've got their new guns. I suppose we should probably actually, because I know we were kind of moving through it there a little bit, but
Yeah.
the reason Clarence had actually gone to OCP to meet with Dick Jones, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, Clarence Brodiger and Dick Jones are essentially in cahoots. So Dick
Yep.
Jones has employed Clarence Brodiger to essentially cause chaos throughout the city to bring the crime rate up. So essentially that Ed 209 can be deployed, I guess, and his product will
Yeah. Yeah.
be used. And he
Manufactured
also
en
wants
masse.
them to take out Robocop as well, because Robocop now has evidence that the two are connected. So he's equipped Clarence with all this military grade hardware and also a tracking device to hunt down Robocop. So at this point, after they've kind of demonstrated the power of the new toys they've been given, they got notification on their little kind of tracking pad that Robocop is hiding out in the old steel mill. And then they all get in the classic white van, the Mirror Universe A-Team van to
Yeah,
go
the
and fuck some shit
evil
up.
18 man. But yeah, it leads into
There is a
that
real
end
creepy
scene,
vibe
which
off
is
that
on like
van.
a abandoned steel mill. No, reminds me of Terminator 2 actually, because you got like that practical production value where it's like real world production facility factory that's not in use, and they can get in there
Yes,
for minimal budget but get some great shots and get some great production value out of it without having to build a damn thing because it's all real stuff. But
fantastic
yeah, we
setting,
get
and like you said, it's used, it's
the
real. Like
van that
people
drives
really
through that
worked
guy and
there.
turns him into paste.
Yeah, yeah. So I suppose each of Clarence's gang get varying degrees of brutality in their deaths. So Joe, the guy who, the kind of laughing guy, he gets probably the nicest death. He just gets shot in the chest almost straight away when they turn up at Steel
I could
Mill.
get shot and not
Yeah.
melted.
Yeah, the rest of the gang aren't so lucky. So yeah, poor Emil, he accidentally drives his van into a vat of toxic waste when he's trying to run Robocop over, and he ends up becoming
The
completely
Toxic Crusader.
mutated.
Well, look at that.
Oh man, that's horrific. Like that's proper horror movie stuff. Like the effects for that are
As a kid,
brutal.
the
And like
trading cards I saw before the film, I thought this guy was some kind of mutant just based on that. Still,
it's so horrific. Like, and his skin is like melting off, his
yeah, it's
bones are
melting off
deformed,
him.
like his eye is
Horrible,
like melting down. And then he ends up getting
disgusting.
literally exploded by a car because he accidentally
He
wanders out in
does,
front of the road,
and the
and Clarence
windscreen
drives
wipers
over him.
are on like
Yeah,
this, just like wiping his guts on the screen.
yeah, it's such a brutally gory way to die. And
And they
then of
just keep
course my
driving on.
character,
He literally just turns into paste. He just explodes on impact from the dummy, and they just wipe him off and keep going.
that's what toxic waste will do to you, Johnny. That's why you should never take a bath in toxic waste, because you are liable to just like shatter into a million pieces if anything hits you. It's a known
Well, I'm
scientific
fucked because the
fact.
amount of bars I've taken by this point in toxic waste have just I've lost count.
But then of course my character, poor Leon Nash, he gets a pretty funny death because RoboCop is like chasing Clarence down in this kind of like canal area. It's kind of like all flooded and that, and
Yeah,
Leon is kind of he's snucken up into this kind of control panel area, and he uses it to drop a load of steel down on top of Clarence, and he thinks he's won the day, and he's celebrating this great kind of success he's just had. But next thing, Lewis just picks up one of those explosive sniper rifles and just blows him up and blows up that entire building that he's in, which is yet another epic explosion in this movie, which just
wish I
really
had an
knows how to
explosive
give you.
sniper rifle.
Yeah, oh man, I'd love one.
Yeah,
I'd
a regular
absolutely
one.
love one. But then, of course, when it comes down to it, it's only RoboCop, it's only Murphy and Clarence. So it's Murphy and the guy who gunned him down. And Clarence
Yeah,
knows he's fucked, so he throws his gun in the water, and he's like, "Okay, that's it. You got me. You won. You got me." And it's just this brilliant moment where like
you're a
RoboCop,
cop.
like
You're
he's
a cop.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
no,
yeah, but like he's like,
I'm
I'm not going to
Murphy.
arrest you anymore. Yeah, I'm not going to arrest you anymore. It's just like he's out for vengeance now, and he
Yeah,
does get that vengeance because after
that's that
Rose
Western
has
feel.
all the but like yeah, because it's total like an eye for an eye, and
Yeah,
he gives him a brutal death. So
squib for a
just
squib.
so he's Robocop. He's lying kind of down on the ground because Leon is after dropping all the steel on him. Clarence thinks he has him dead to rights. He's like hitting him. He's bashing him with this like
Yeah,
iron bar, and just as he's going in for the kill, Robo ejects his little USB spike from his fist and just stabs him right through the neck. It's a brutal death, and like when he pulls the spike out, you just see this blood splatter. It's a great
yeah,
moment where
that
you
like
just see the sky of
Roman
blood,
spear they stick him with.
and like Clarence, he staggers off trying to hold his innards in on his neck, but he just crumbles into the water, and he dies right there and then. And it's such a fitting end to his character, and it's great to see Murphy kind of get that level on of revenge and the guy who actually killed him, because it is that final showdown between the sheriff and the bad guy. Not the final showdown, because he still has to go and take care of Dick Jones, but in terms of dealing with the person who I suppose inflicted the most direct pain on him, he definitely got his revenge in style. Like he stabbed the dude straight through the neck, with the spike, and he
Yeah,
killed the rest of the gang as well. So it's like it's a job well done on that part. But before he um before he has to go and deal with Dick Jones, he also has to go and deal with Ed 209 one more time when he pulls up outside the OCP building, and you think there's going to be another kind of big showdown between him and Ed, but he just pulls out the explosive sniper rifle, the Cobra assault cannon, and literally just blows Ed 209's head clean off, which is just another brilliant moment in the movie as well. You just like, yeah, it's like you've taken care of that, your main kind of rival, so to speak, your main robo rival. He's history now, and there's a great little animation of just the Ed 209 legs staggering around after he's had his head blown off, which I always thought was a great little moment
yeah,
where the legs
that
just
was
kind of
awesome.
fall
Yeah,
over, and they're kind of kicking with all the smoke and stuff coming out. So makes his way to the top of the OCP tower where Dick Jones is in the middle of giving another one of his corporate speeches. He bursts through the doors. He plays the video evidence where it's kind of showing that Dick Jones
I
has,
love that
been
bank of
behind everything the
TVs.
whole time. I love multiple TVs. It's such a classic 80s trope of like, a wall of TVs in a room.
Yeah,
I love that shit.
Ozymandias
But
style.
so he plays the footage of Dick Jones on all the big TVs. Dick Jones freaks out. He grabs the old man, and he grabs that nice shiny silver Desert Eagle gun, and he's like, I'm gonna get out of here. You better send me a chopper. I'm gonna kill the old man. Of course, Robocop can't do anything about this situation because Directive 4 says that you can't harm an OCP executive. However, the
Yeah,
old man
just cool.
utters the famous words, "Dick, you're fired," which means that Dick is now no longer an employee of OCP, he's no longer an
Yeah,
OCP
no,
senior
boy,
executive. So Robocop just says, "Thank you." The old man elbows Dick in the nads, gets out of the way, and Robocop just shoots him right through the window. And we get that famous
wipes
bit
that
of weird.
director out.
It's the only. This is the only effect in the film that I think has aged a little bit bad, and that
The
is when you see
stretchy
Dick Jones
arms.
falling out the window. The stretch. He's like a Stretch
That's
Armstrong falling
horrible.
out the window. But
I don't know why they're
apart from that,
stretchy.
though, it's a brilliant scene, though. It's a brilliant scene, and you really do
Yeah,
feel
that's
like
it.
getting up and like cheering when it happens, because it's the whole revenge arc has finally come full circle. He's killed all his enemies. He's gotten revenge. He's walking out of the room, and Johnson, one of the executives, it's the old man. It's like he's nice shooting, son. What's your name? And Robo just turns around and says Murphy, and then
Murphy.
end credits. What a way to end the movie. It's
Dun,
such a
dun, 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 dun,
brilliant,
dun.
brilliant movie. And we didn't even mention the soundtrack of this movie, which for the entire thing is just gold. Like it's a masterful soundtrack. And when you hear that
Yeah, there's whole little
RoboCop
thematic tunes
theme,
throughout each major scene and act.
it's so iconic. The soundtrack to this movie, just the RoboCop theme in itself, just really gets your spirits lifted, and you feel like something important is going to happen, and it's just a great way to end it. And like from start to finish, you're just kind of brought on this roller coaster ride. And like I was saying earlier, depending on what you're looking for, if you're just looking for a bit of gratuitous violence and some action, he'll tick that box. But if you're looking for something a bit deeper and an actual kind of a real
Yeah.
human story, it's going to tick some boxes for you there as well. There's just so much going on. I really love this movie. We could probably do other episodes where we could go back and like revisit different aspects of this film. It's just a movie I've always loved, like my whole life, ever since I've seen it. I watch it multiple times a year to this day. I just love it. I just absolutely love it.
I haven't watched it in a while, and like Aliens, Terminator, RoboCop. It's one of those things I'm happy to come back to and watch every year or every other year. And it's got so much going on. You've got the script, you've got the dialogue, you've got the great cast, director, awesome production values, and on a smaller budget, they did so much. Practical effects, amazing practical effects that I really love so much. Anything computer related in this film is entirely practical. It's all faked. It's all faked to look like a computer thing, but it's practical. They did a shot within a shot within a shot within a shot. The amazing stuff, like when he takes his helmet off, he's got this prosthetic of his own face stretched on his own face, going back onto the side profile, coming up the skin, the bits of robotics and other shit. It's this amazing, presumably latex, whatever, your rubber vinyl hybrid stretched over his face, they show. And so they can show off when he takes the helmet off, he's got the prosthetics, he's got the robot rear, his jaw, black piece inexplicably disappears, but you saw into the film, you don't notice it. They did amazing stuff with that. Also, if you want some of your biblical references, which I'm not particularly into myself, but Verhoeven, the director, he talks them up. He's the guy who put them in there. So I'm just mentioning them there for your fucking film spotters. Don't take it as any kind of endorsement. But in this scene alone, Robocop, the guy who died and was resurrected early in the film, he walks on water and he has a spear thrust into his side, which is colloquially known as the Spear of Destiny or Holy Spear or Lance, alleged to have pierced the side of Jesus as he hanged on the cross during his crucifixion. Also led to a really cool expansion of the original MS-DOS Windows Wolfenstein game called Spear of Destiny, which is my favorite bit of trivia writing to that more than any sort of unofficial gospels. But that's why he's getting slashed in the side / pectoral with a big piece of steel that looks like a sort of 6-foot crowbar in one of the shots there. And it goes on.
It can't be understated how painful that moment actually looks when Clarence is actually stabbing him with that spear. It actually looks incredibly painful. It really is brutal. It does.
And I love in the below that he's in the Ford Taurus car painted black where the windows all smashed out and he's driving it the second or third time in the film where he's like, I don't care if the window's smashed out, I'm driving the same damn car from earlier. I love the smashed out window in a cop film, which turns up in a lot of films, but I just love that. It's just like, got to get where I'm going, don't care the window's smashed, let's go. Faces up with the Dick Jones of that end scene where he has the crazy rubber arms and the wall of TVs and has the directive and he's fired and the deleted directive, so now he can shoot the guy that he couldn't shoot before in the other scene, but also he's firing him by pushing him out the window. It's just a lot going on.
These days he'd have to wait until he actually got the official letter from HR to say that the contract had been terminated before he could shoot him. You can't just fire people that anymore,
No, you can't fire people these days by deleting a director and then shooting or shoving them out of the window while they take somebody hostage. It doesn't work that way these days. just got a quick still in here about the cast. Murphy Robocop, Peter Weller. I fucking love Peter Weller, man. Like he's a lot of cool stuff. He's in old Buckaroo Banzai from the whatever dimension. He turns up as the voice of the Dark Knight in the Dark Knight Returns. Frank Miller's story from the 80s set around the old Reaganomics and a lot of similar corporate culture and these themes. Animation done decades later by DC. Peter Weller does an awesome job as Batman, and you would never pick him as a Batman kind of voice after your old classic 90s animation and such. But the scene where Batman fights the mutant gang leader guy is like, you don't get it. This is an operating table and I'm the surgeon. That's just such a Peter Weller Robocop line, man. He's just so fucking good. He's so awesome. He also turns up in the TV series Justified with Timothy Olyphant as a retired Texas Ranger, where he's this old, he's not senile, but he's like a retired guy. He's got guns and he's in a nursing home, and the Timothy Olyphant guy is kind of annoyed having to go and deal with him. But he's like just this old retired gunslinger / Robocop / Batman, just this badass guy who's just like, don't fuck with me or I'll fuck you back. Awesome actor.
A great actor. Have you ever seen the film Screamers?
I have not. I know of it. I know of his earlier roles, but as a film fan, I've really got to go back and watch some of his earlier films. Because I've
This
watched all sorts of shit from the 30s or 70s, but I have not watched Peter Weller's earlier films.
this is Screamers. I think it's like it could be early 90s. It's like after
Yeah.
RoboCop. I'd
Oh,
recommend it.
after yeah.
It's a sci-fi movie. It's fairly low budget, but it's Peter Weller is the star, and he just gets a lot of screen time to actually act and play an interesting character. It's essentially about humans have colonized a planet, and there's like a war going on, but there's these like robots that called screamers that look like humans that are out to get them. It's a little bit like Terminator mixed with
Bit of
aliens, mixed with a
Aliens, bit
whole
of
load of other
Terminator, bit of
movies.
Blade Runner.
But there's a whole it's pretty low budget as well. But I would still
Yeah.
just recommend it if you want to just watch Peter Weller act for an hour and
I think
20
I'll
minutes
check
and
that
just
out
have a
this
good
week,
time.
man, because like it's like watching stuff Lance Henriksen, and he's in a bunch of really cool stuff in the 80s and then some dodgy stuff in the 90s, 2000s. But he's just an awesome character actor that you've got to enjoy and wherever he turns up.
Even looking at some of the going down this list here a little bit, you've got
Kurtwood Smith, man.
Ronnie Kurtwood Smith. What a legend! What a legend! And of course, sir, poor Nancy Allen would return for both RoboCop 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Like Peter Weller didn't even turn up for 3. At least we got Nancy
Which
Allen
guy?
for
Which
number
guy was
3.
the police captain?
Oh, that's Sergeant Reed, Robert Ducoy.
Yeah, because
He's a great
he's in
character.
like he's in like 70s blaxploitation films and all sorts of other cool stuff, and turns up with like cop characters and other these films.
Of course, Ronnie Cox we would see come back in another Paul Verhoeven movie. He would come in as Velos Cohagen in Total Recall. He's like the main villain in
Yeah,
Total Recall. He's
that's it.
excellent,
Yeah.
excellent character in that as well.
Can you remember it for me, Mark?
You can remember for you wholesale, Johnny.
Good. I don't want to pay full price for that.
The memory of a
Yeah, awesome,
lifetime. Recall,
awesome,
recall,
awesome
recall.
cast. Awesome cast in this film.
Learn these words, remember them, and always recall them. If you
Stay
ever come
out of trouble.
across trouble, just stay out of trouble. Just stay out of trouble.
Remember, that's your move, creep. He's got so many good one-liners in this film, and it's like this existential Jesus parable Robocop rebirth Murphy Robocop thing, and it works on so many levels. You've got the basic level of just this over-the-top 80s action movie with violence and gore and all kinds of crazy stuff. You got the deeper meaning stuff going on. You've got the production value things and the soundscape and the practical effects, the practical sounds, as well as the visual effects. There's just all kinds of good quality stuff going on, and it works on so many levels. And I was actually amazed at how well this film stands up today, and how much depth there is to it. It's like every decade I come back to it and discover something new about it I didn't know before, and it becomes more enjoyable.
It really is a cinematic masterpiece on so many levels,
Yeah,
and
that's not a sentence
it's
I
one of
would have
those
used
things.
before this week, but now I would
Yeah,
agree.
but it's one of those things, like, it could have very much easily turned
Oh, I could have
into
gone sideways,
a
man, so easily.
oh, big
If you
time. It
didn't
could
have
have been
Verhoeven or Peter
a
Weller or the
straight to
writer,
video,
then yeah, could have
yeah,
been a
straight to video B
80s
movie.
bullshit anything.
And it's like we said, like with the title, RoboCop, it does sound a bit cheesy when you don't
Yeah,
really know what it is.
cyborg,
I could, and like
kickboxer.
even Verhoeven, like Verhoeven admits, he put the script down. He wasn't willing to read it. It was
Yeah, he
actually his
threw it
wife
away.
who
He's like,
read
"This
it.
is garbage, American garbage."
If it wasn't for his wife, he would have never picked it up and then started rereading it. So
Mm,
we owe Paul Verhoeven's
exactly.
wife a debt of gratitude as well.
Yeah, it's funny that way because like you said, the name, his wife, who's the one who recommended after he'd thrown the script away and said, "No, this is just American nonsense, like B grade nonsense," saying, "No, there's actually something to this. There's like some deeper themes and something beyond the surface level that's actually resonant and going to grab you and not just entertain you, but make you think and ponder your meaning of life and significance in this film." Plus, he played some bloody brass on set.
What a talented man!
Yeah, dancer,
Like
martial artist, musician,
like he's
Robocop.
trying to have a bit of fun. He's trying to have a bit of fun here, and
Yeah.
he's in that suit. He's sweating. He's tired.
Oh
He
my god,
probably just
he
wants to
lost
go
like
to sleep. But he's like,
1.5 kilos a day in water weight every time this bloody summer heat.
yeah, what a guy. Fair play to him for coming back for the second movie. I don't know if I would have been in such a
Yeah,
rush to come back.
I wouldn't be in a rush either. And actually, that reminds me of another thing Verhoeven said is that they looked at a potential whole bunch of different casts. Lance Henriksen, Schwarzenegger, a whole bunch of things coming from the studio and other stuff about who could possibly be in this film, who's who of cast and leading men at this particular time. And most actors didn't want to know or wouldn't take this seriously, but he said, to the credit of Peter Weller, even before he'd signed on to this film, took the role seriously. And he's like, okay, well, if we're doing this, how would I move and what would I do? And went away and did months worth of dance coach choreography that he couldn't use properly because the suit wouldn't fucking move. And then eventually they end up cutting out some of the joints, the elbows, the shoulder, the knee part, so he could actually move and use something of what he'd learnt over several months from the dance coach, doing those robotic movements, the chest first, the head follows, the weird slow rapid movements. He took it seriously, whereas a lot of actors would be like, what's this bullshit? You want me to dress up for fucking 8, 12 hours a day in a crazy suit and sweat and lose weight to do this bizarre science fiction film?
Yeah, dude, a lot of actors would be far too precious to endure
Yeah,
that
and the
type of what
face,
they
just
would
the
see as
face
poor
alone,
treatment.
not seeing that much. 90% of them be like, "Fuck off, mate! I want to see my face on film." He wasn't precious about it because he was like a stage guy as much as he was a film guy. So he took it seriously.
Yeah, no, he's a legend, Weller. He's a true legend. And like I said, fair play for agreeing to come back for the second film because, a lot of people would have said, no way, I've done that once. There's no way you're going to get me to put that suit on again.
Yeah, like I really feel for guys like that, whether it's Peter Weller or like a bloody what's his name, fucking Hellboy, um,
Ron
Ron
Perlman.
Perlman. Yeah. Yeah, Ron Perlman dressed up in that Hellboy suit for 2 films in a row, like all the practical effects, or your old Lon Chaney, like back in the day in Universe and what's dressing up those practical effects and having to have all the prosthetics on and sweating in the heat and then the film cameras and lighting. Like it takes a fucking certain amount of guts to do a role like that and actually stick with it, take it seriously, and actually stick with it and follow that through to completion. Like it's not something for a lightweight. And like during the production of this film, a lot of the people got pissed off with each other. The director was quite manic, Paul Verhoeven, going, "You're fucking me, you're fucking me, you're fucking my film. What are you doing?" And Peter Weller pissed off a bunch of people because he was like, "Once I'm in that suit, man, that's 8 hours. Once I'm in that suit, call me Robo, and if you don't like it, fuck you. I do not care." It's like, that was his attitude of the film, but it worked because he took it seriously. And if you're just fucking around as an actor and being lazy, then yeah, you could get annoyed and whatever. Um, but the people in the film, universally, the actors, the producers, your sound people, whoever actors, they had real passion they put into this project, and that passion really showed off on screen and came together into a cohesive production that became something memorable and worthwhile. So, it worked. Like there's a um, conflict, but from the conflict came some good art.
I agree. I agree. And it's look, it's one of those things we've probably mentioned it before. When it comes to a lot of these classics that actually do turn out to be real masterpieces, you will often find that there was choppy waters backstage, so to speak. It wasn't all smooth sailing. People didn't always get along with each other. But the main thing was that everybody who was working on it all brought their A game and took it
Yeah.
seriously. So it became more than really
Fucking
what it
A.
should have.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
all the parts come together and become something greater than what any of them could have done alone, which is really what comes to me from this film. Is like it really does have a lot of amazing parts going on, like the sound, the production, the practical effects of building that stupid suit that didn't work, and then they had to kind of go back and do it like kind of 2.0 and redo it all over again. And they were at the point where they were almost going to not really cancel the film, but they were going, this is kind of not working. We're going to have to shut down production for a while. And everyone's at loggerheads and arguments, and the suit doesn't work, and nobody's getting on. And they managed to move on from that and come back and actually kick ass and fucking take names.
certainly did. They certainly did. And like I was saying, like I will always love this movie. It's just I don't I these days I
This is
never
your
really like to
Titanic,
say like
Mark. I'll always
yeah,
love
well,
you.
I'm not going to just go and say flat out it's my favorite movie of all time because I don't really just like making statements like that anymore. But
And if you want to.
um, it's definitely one of my top movies ever. I just absolutely adore this movie and so many aspects
If you
about it.
could
I
take
just
that god awful Titanic Celine, that I will always love you. If you could take that and turn it some kind of synthwave version, make it about Robocop, then we'd have something.
that would speak to me. That would speak directly to my heart.
Yeah, that would speak to my Robo soul. But that seems like a good place to finish up our chat tonight, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Hope all you folks enjoyed the chatter. And look, let us know because I know it's one of those things we probably brushed past a few bits and pieces that you as the viewer might have
There's
wanted
so
us to
much
talk
in it.
about. But like there is so much and but let us know. Let us know. Is this something you'd like us to revisit? Would you like us to talk about the sequels or the spin-offs? Um, I'll give a little plug here to the Largo's Lair channel. I know
Yep. What's he
Jim
doing?
Largo and I
What's he doing? I
we
want to
did
know.
well we did a talk before on that other Robo franchise from the 80s, the Terminator. So you
Oh,
know
but that's
I'd recommend anybody if you want to hear my views on the Terminator to go check that out. But
I'll add it
maybe
into the
since
playlist. Any of your past ones have been adding into the playlist for the shows.
I'm kind of thinking though if since I spoke to Largo about Terminator and I've spoken to you about RoboCop, maybe someday the three of us should come together to talk about RoboCop versus Terminator or some of those other versus
Combined
spin-offs.
forces.
Yeah,
It's funny you
who
mention
knows? Who
that
knows?
because we'll finish up there, and I'll say we'll chuck up a little 80s color scheme here, saying, I'll say my goodbye, Mark will say his, and then stay tuned for the next 20 seconds for
Bye.
people that like a bit of versus action.
Ooh. Intriguing.